Welcome back to Men and the City. In today's video, we're going to talk about the importance of reading. So today's video is going to be called How to Read. As with everything in our day and age, there is sort of the substance of things, the truth of things, which tends to be a bit more long form, tends to be a bit more detailed, in depth, and takes time to digest. And then there's the short form, and the short form is a video on YouTube that says, hey, do these 5 things and you'll learn everything I took 20 years to learn in half the time. And there's a tremendous audience and hunger for that because people want to take shortcuts. And taking shortcuts is not necessarily a bad thing per se, but when it comes to excellence, it just doesn't work that way. And reading is one of those areas where you really can't take shortcuts. I spent a lot of time reading, and that was a choice. I could have spent that time doing other things, but I chose to read and I chose to write. And I do think it's been of tremendous value in many ways. I will say it has harmed me in certain ways as well, because not everybody responds well to the way that I talk or the material that I reference, the ideas that I express. And that's a risk that you run in our day and age, because people today tend to be, as most of you know, rather shallow. They lack a lot of substance, and they don't want people around who have it. That being said, I think reading is worth it. So how do you do it? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to make a list. And that list should focus on the books in your subject area that most people regard as important. You can be judicious about that. In other words, you can sort of pick and choose, but you need to develop a list. And the reason you start there is because it's sort of like developing a syllabus. You need to have a roadmap that will lead you down the right path. So create a list. I have a reading list that I put together of all the books that I've read, and some of them are books that are still on my list that I have not read. And I'm always adding to that. In fact, if you guys are interested in that list, let me know in the comments below. You start with the list. Second, when you read, you need to read very closely and very diligently. You need to highlight. You need to pull out passages that you think are very important. And that's going to take time in the beginning. You're not going to master how to sift through lots of material right away. You should also circle words that you don't know or concepts that you don't know and generate another list of words and concepts and write the definitions down. You should also use a notes app of some kind and take diligent notes on the material that you've read. Now, you might think, hey, this is impossible. I don't have enough time to do all of that. Well, that's a choice that you have to make, because you can do everything in light speed. You can read 1,000 books. And what will you retain from it? Well, that's going to vary from person to person, but for most of us, myself included, you need to read it closely and you need to take diligent notes. And if you do that, you will retain the material. Something else will happen as well. You will get faster and faster and faster at doing this. And when you read some of these recommended books, there will be other books that they reference that you pick up in the course of reading the reading list that you started with, okay? So you will effectively begin to create your own list in the process of leveraging somebody else's. Now, the first 6 months of this, the first year of this, are going to be slow. But at the end of a couple of years, or 5 years, or 10 years, and you can imagine from there, your knowledge base is going to swell. There's one other thing I want to mention. Whatever you do, make sure that it's structured, meaning don't commit to saying, I'm going to read a book a week if you can't sustain that. If you can only read a book a month, that's what you should do. And I can tell you, I read quite a bit, but reading more than a book a month and actually retaining and understanding it is extremely difficult for me. So I don't do that. I usually read only about a book a month, all right? But again, over the course of years and years of this, your knowledge base grows exponentially. So, should you read? Of course you should read. How much can you read really depends upon your ability and your discipline and all the rest of it. But if you apply the methodology that I said and you don't take shortcuts, you will be rewarded in the end. Stay tuned for more, and we'll talk soon.